housekeeping items. Thank you, Yvette. We haven't done this in a little while, but using the Zoom, first and foremost, unless we are recording, as you could tell, unless you want your video or you to be one of the lead people, I would suggest keeping your video off, and obviously keeping your computer, your phone, whatever you're using, tablet, muted. Best way to ask a question throughout this webinar will be through the chat. My team and Nicole and others will be able to look through the chat to help either answer those questions in real time or right back to you at the end if we have some time. We usually unrecord and allow you guys to come off mute and ask questions that we might have missed or anything that might be pressing for the group that we're not thinking about right now. So I guess with all of that, just want to welcome everybody. This is our post-Connecticut legislative session. So I use the word post for many of you guys as our session did end 6 days ago. So on Wednesday, June 7th, our session came to a close at midnight, sine die, which in a lot of ways is a good thing. We're going to go through a lot of that today with Nicole on. But first, I obviously want to give you guys a little bit of an update of CRA, national update, just some other things that you guys might need to know as well. But so we'll get started. I will switch over here and share my screen. Let's see. So hoping everyone can see that. Okay, so just a couple of topics for today. We're just going to go through this quick association update, quick events update, things that we've already done this year, things we're planning on doing, kind of a national update as well. I'm actually headed to DC on Monday with a handful of our board members for our National Public Affairs Conference, which I'll talk about in a second. And then obviously the meat of this agenda, and I'll turn it over to Nicole, is our Connecticut legislative session update and what kind of transpired here in the Connecticut legislature. So, and then obviously question and answers. Just a quick association update. I'm turning it over to Yvette in a second here, so she can bring her screen on. But for those that don't know or don't see our emails, we are now a larger staff. We have added Katie Gerber as our administrative coordinator. So when you receive emails from Gerber at ctrestaurant.org, Katie is our newest hire. Very excited to have Katie on our team. She actually comes to us from the UK. Grew up just outside of London. Married an American Air Force pilot and is over here now with building her family and living in Connecticut and learning our job now that she's been here, I think almost a month now, a little over a month. So Katie, welcome to the team. And you guys will get a chance if you haven't met her already. She was at our CRA night at the Capitol and board meeting, and she will be at our golf tournament here in 2 weeks. So, and then just a quick update on membership. Our resource guide, we are working to finalize that and get that out. Obviously, you guys have last year's guide if you're a member. If you don't know what the resource guide is, it is realistically just a booklet that we hope that you keep with you that kind of answers a lot of questions, who to contact in regards to whether it's legislative issues, legal issues, serve safe, other things everything that we provide as member-based organization, we try to put into that hard copy guide. And then also we have all of our allied members in there listed. A lot of their contact information and such, as you guys look to call us and say, hey, I need a hood cleaner, or I need, a contact with a legal counsel. I need a contact with an accountant, a bookkeeper, whatever that might be. We really built that guide last year for the first year, and we're about to roll out our second edition for each of our members. Obviously, we do a lot of that on digital as well, our membership portal. If you don't know, you can go on through there when you do become a member. With your access, that gives you other availability to find those contacts, those allied members directory, to find any contacts you might need. And then obviously the exclusive savings program. I think we just put up on Instagram, DataPay, one of our premier partners, prime partners, what they do for us in offering discounts to our members for being a great CRA member themselves, but obviously offering it out to any of our members. So there's other exclusive savings programs that you can learn about either through our guide online or obviously reaching out And then in another breath, obviously you guys probably know this, but if you don't, I think there was actually some news out there about ServSafe things that were going on where people were saying they were teaching ServSafe classes, but they really weren't, or they weren't certified. But know that we are the leader. The National Restaurant Association actually has and owns ServSafe, and those products that are there, that whole product suite, which the two kind of main ones are manager and alcohol training. There is food handler, there is Serve Success. There's a lot of different programs, but these are kind of the two that we lead out with. We have in-person classes for manager. We teach them every Monday. They are filling up extremely fast. We know that's a little bit with the new FDA code that was approved by the Connecticut Department of Health, the 2017 code, which if you guys don't know, you need to have a certified food operator on shift at all times that your doors are open. Used to be you could just have yourself and maybe you trained a couple others when you weren't there. You need to have at least one qualified food operator inside your restaurant whenever your doors are open. So we are seeing an influx of people wanting to take our classes. I prefer the in-person classes as I talk to our members. Why is that? You can do it fully online. You can take the test online. We have two incredible instructors that have over a 90% passer rating, two of the highest in the country. Yes, you have to go and sit in on an all-day class, but they're really helping walk you through what the test is going to entail, and then obviously getting that certification. So go through our site, ctrestaurant.org/ServSafe. You can see all of our classes. We are teaching Spanish classes as well. Pretty much once every 2 or 3 months, we have a Spanish class, but they are filling up fast. So, please try to sign up as quick as you can. All right, so I'm going to turn this over to Yvette if you want to just to talk a little bit about our newest kind of promotion for anybody that's on that is not a member.
Thank you, Scott. So welcome everybody. Thank you for being on our webinar today. I know it's been a little bit since we've seen you all on one of these. We are very excited to be doing a Join in June promotion. We've never done this before. As Scott just mentioned, we just finished legislative session. So we at the CRA, during session is really kind of our busiest time of the year where we're working to represent the industry. And as we come to the end of session, we wanted to kind of put it out there that it's time to join the association if you're not already a member. We're always working in the background on behalf of the industry. You are out there running your business. We don't expect you to have, a lobbyist and a legal team and staff and doing all this advocacy work. We do that and stay connected with you through membership. So we created a campaign, first time we've ever done this, where during June, when you join and use the promo code JOIN50, you will get $50 off. You have to use the links that are directly from the Join in June page. So please make sure to, I think Scott's got it on the screen there. So you see ctrestaurant.org/join-in-June. We've also sent this out through our email. I know most of you on this call today are members. Thank you so much for your support. We don't talk about this that much, but we are a member-based trade association. So our members are what fuel our mission and strengthen our voice. Membership dues are what power our work. So we really need to have you be members and stay engaged with us throughout the year. This is a great time to make it official and become a member of the CRA. Go to that website and use the June 50 promo code to get $50 off. And you will shortly get an email from our team, Liz and Katie, who will get you onboarded, introduce you to, Scott mentioned some of those benefits. We'll introduce you to benefits and all the various, we could have a whole webinar on benefits. So we'll get you onboarded. That page, the Join in June page, does have links to a webinar we did recently about membership. So please take a look at that. We broke them into little clips too, so you can learn different topics on membership. Lots of information there. So thank you everybody again for being on today. And we look forward to having our membership continue to grow. Thank you, Scott.
Thanks, Yvette. So yeah, just a quick hit there. So you guys know, I just hit 5 years. When we started, we had 372 members in Connecticut at 8,500 locations. We now have over 2,000, which is incredible. But at the same time, we're only as strong as our members that we have in your voice. And we're going to get into this a little bit with Nicole about how important this session was. And it's not really as much myself or Nicole or our team. It's really about who our members were and their voices and the strength that their voice had and how much it mattered in this session. And without that, without you guys being a part of this and allowing us to do the work that we do, we wouldn't probably have had the success we've had in over the past few years. But obviously, when we get into this session and the meat and the heart of some of the challenges that we were faced with and kind of where we stand. So thank you to those on this call that are a member and have been a member. And if you're still questioning, or anybody that you know outside of your own network that isn't a member, understand that we are only as strong as trying to get as many members as we can. Obviously, you guys know how competitive I am. The average really good association is about 45 to 50% of their total locations are members. We are probably we started out about 7%. We're well above 24, 25%, but still have a little ways to go, and would love to try to gain new members with this promotion. So thank you, Yvette. Just a quick update. Jennifer Conklin-Smith is on, our foundation director. Just want to give you guys a highlight. If you did not see this news, these four young ladies there's three young ladies and this young man here, Adam, and the whole team here at Wilbur Cross. This is our ProStart program. It's a part of our foundation. So you guys know we have our state competition at Dunkin' Donuts Park, which we had back on March 1st. It's a high school culinary based program where we have over 17 high schools in the state looking to grow that program, where they learn, the skill sets, not just culinary specific, management, kind of soft skills that are being taught inside these classrooms. And then there's a competition side to this where they can go and compete at a state level in culinary, and then also restaurant management, where think like Shark Tank, where they go and they pitch a restaurant idea to 5 sharks, which really about 15 to 20 judges that are in the industry, former chefs, restaurant owners, chefs currently, and they have this idea. These 4 people in front of you on the screen won a national championship. So Wilbur Cross won their second national championship, the second since I've been here, over 46 other states in competition. So from California to Texas, their restaurant management pitch was phenomenal. But you just talk about how incredible. We talk about workforce development all the time, and we talk about how we need to build back our workforce and where is it going to come from and how important hospitality is. You guys know this. We get a lot of scars and a bad name of, the hospitality industry is not one you want to get into. It's not one that pays well enough. You don't treat people well enough. And I think that we are trying to change that narrative. And what better way than a story like this, to have, these 4 here win a national title, bring it back to Connecticut. I know they were recognized inside the House and Senate, and obviously the governor back on June 1st. But continue to support our ProStart, continue to support our foundation. These are the things that we are trying to do. Thank you to those with the ProStart weekend, where we raise money inside your restaurant to help grow our ProStart program. Also, we are working tirelessly on other additional grant programs, using the foundation as a leveraging point for us, not only in workforce development, mental health, other things that we can try to do, for those outside of trainings. We're trying to work with the Department of Corrections right now, Jennifer and I, to see if we can, reentry programs, trying to work with the National Foundation and other grants and federal grants. I think that we've just hit the tip of the iceberg here of what we can do. And we thank those that support our foundation. Our golf tournament does that. Our Crazies in a Park does that, ProStart weekend. So wanted to give you guys that update. But this is just phenomenal news of what Wilbur Cross was able to accomplish. Their culinary team finished 21st out of 47 states. But obviously to win a national championship is incredible, an incredible feat. Shifting gears, just talk a couple of events that have happened. Thank you to all of the restaurants. I know I could have probably put 30 different photos on here, but we had about a little close to 20 restaurants participate in this event. We hadn't had it since pre-COVID because of the building and the challenges with masks and being able to be 6 foot apart and everything that we've gone through. But we did what's called CRA Night at the Capitol on June 1st. The goal of this event was to try to have our restaurateurs come out and rub shoulders with our legislators and legislative leaders inside the Capitol. And it was a phenomenal night. Nicole can talk about it as well. The feedback, I ran into legislators last week and they were like, you need to do that every night. The food was phenomenal. Just the engagement, got to see some of the restaurants from different districts. But what we do here is it's not as much of a lobbying day. It's more about interacting with those legislators the last week of session and talking to them about how important the industry is, just not making them think, making sure they're thinking about why it's important to protect our industry, why it's important not to maybe put some nasty legislation on the floor. And we saw that. We saw the outcome of that. We obviously are going to look to grow this event for years to come. But I just wanted to take a moment to thank those, all of those restaurants that took the time out on a Thursday night. I promise you, we're going to try not to do it on a Thursday or Friday next year, more like a Monday or Tuesday. I know even with your restaurants being open, to be able to be there and participate, it means a lot to us. And so many great, thank yous that came out from the legislature, their staff, even the governor came down for a little while. I was so impressed. So thank you to all of those, as well as we did a non-alcoholic event as well. So we did have Sierra Hill from Wilton and Athletic Brewing that participated and obviously rave reviews for them as well. So thank you. Quick photo here. As you guys probably know, our golf tournament is in less than 2 weeks now. It's a week and a half away at Lyman Orchards on June 26th. It is completely sold out for golf. I've already received like 8 text messages. Can I get a foursome? I apologize. But we have 2 18-hole courses and we are completely sold out. About 260, almost 260 golfers. Try not to make it a huge marathon round. But thank you to those sponsors and everyone that's already supporting it. But even if you cannot, obviously play golf now, there are other ways to get involved and other ways to be a part of it. So you guys know you can still sponsor tee signs. You can sponsor a hole if you're an Allied member and want to be out on a hole and see a lot of our members in our restaurants and such. You also, which we're going to send out an email right after this, just so you guys know, just kind of unveiling it to everyone here. We have 6 phenomenal chefs, something we started 3 years ago. This will be the 3rd year of this iteration where we have a chef farm dinner following golf on the golf course at Lyman. And we have an incredible team again this year that is going to step up from around the state. So Ken, Carlos, Tyler, Frank, Tom, and Clark. If you guys are on your teams, thank you guys. Really excited for this menu. And obviously all of our sponsors. So you can still purchase a ticket. It's $100. Even if you don't play golf to come out to this, it is all available on our website right now. And then, like I talked about before, the golf tee signs, we are still trying to get those printed. We probably have a couple days, probably through the end of the week to early next week to get any additional signs. If you want to have that out and support us, obviously the proceeds of this help support the CRA and support our foundation. But thank you to those chefs ahead of time. We're really, really excited for this dinner again. And it's such a great day at Lyman and the team there at Lyman. So just wanted to launch that. You guys will see that email and you can use those links if you want to purchase dinner tickets. Just to put it on your calendar, if you don't know already, the Crazies will be our 5th year, which is wild to think that it'll be 5 years since we started the name the Crazies. That picture there was 1,200 people in a room at Foxwoods. Just such an incredible night last December, and it'll be December 4th this year, Monday, December 4th, at Foxwoods Resort Casino. So excited for the 5th year and what that's going to mean. Still a lot of other new ideas as we try to always bring something new to each of you guys, and hope you guys put that on your calendar now, and you'll start to see stuff later into the summer as we start to get closer to the event. But I just want to make sure you guys had it as a calendar date, so people are like, oh, I didn't know December 4th. Like, you start shutting your restaurants down now if you are open on Mondays. All right, quick national update. Next week, I mentioned this at the beginning, I am traveling to Washington, D.C. To meet with our 7 delegates. This is a trip that we take every year. Obviously we have, about 6 or 7 board members coming down with us. This is a picture here. And you don't even have to be a board member. If this is something that interests you in future years, it's a weird date this year. We were always supposed to really be in March and April. It got pushed back because of challenges with the calendar for the Senate and House. We obviously want to be there when they're both there. So we had to move this to next week in June. We do have a great crew going. I am working right now on scheduling meetings with Senator Blumenthal, as you see in this photo, with Senator Murphy, with Larson and Courtney and Hayes and DeLauro and Himes. We meet with all of them. And what do we talk about? A lot of people ask me, why do you go to DC? What the same kind of lobbying that we do at a state level, we have to make that same impact working with the National Restaurant Association, and why we go down there and meet with our delegates each year. We do meet with them when they come back up here, but it always I feel it's more important to go into DC, into their office, and sit down with them and talk about some of the issues that are arising on a federal level. What are they? Just so you guys know, this is kind of a leave behind that we're going to have printed nicely thanks to the National Restaurant Association. These are 3 specific topics we are going to be talking about next week. Preserving the tip credit. That's obviously a state issue as well, but just so you know, it's a federal issue. There's been a lot of legislators that have tried to eliminate the tip credit all the way across the board, across the country, where if it did pass federally, we would have to follow that federal law. We couldn't just have our own tip credit. So it is important that we educate our 7 delegates to know what the tip credit is, how it works, kind of same conversation we have here, and what that means with our numbers. So preserving the tip credit. The other 2 are kind of positive ones that we hope to maybe get across and get done, and really 2 bills that have been put out. One is the Essential Workers for Economic Advancement Act, HR 3734. What is that? Those are trying to get 65,000 visas, and just working on, you talk about immigration, we talk about immigration reform and how hard that is down in DC. We as a hospitality sector, with the help of the National Restaurant Association, is trying to figure out different ways to create visas and try to create jobs for us. We need to hire 500,000 people. Obviously 65,000 visas isn't going to do that, but we have to start to kick the door open and figure this out and make sure that our 7 delegates that we meet with know how important it is that we have to find our workforce and the next workforce. And a lot of those can be non-immigrants, immigrants, whatever that it might be, we have to figure that out. So that's the, EAA, which we're trying to roll out. And then obviously EWEA, I apologize. And then the Credit Card Competition Act. This is, just so you guys know, you can just read it there. Swipe fees, as you guys all know, have doubled over the past decade. And there's really a duopoly. There's 2 companies out there. And really, we're just trying to pass a piece of legislation that allows less of the monopoly, duopoly world. It happened in the debit card years ago. We're going up against the big banks, so you guys know. So this isn't going to be an easy task, but I think our delegates, we need to educate them about how important this is, how crazy credit card fees have become. There's other things with credit cards we want to look ahead in the state level, but on a federal level, we need to have more competition. So we have lower rates across the board. So those are kind of 3 big issues we're going to talk about in DC. I'm happy to answer questions that you guys might have as we go forward. But just so you guys know what we do in DC, and people say, why we go down there for those reasons. And we have federal issues that we are going to have conversations about. And if you ever have interest in wanting to go, we'd love to have you. All right. Now I'm going to kind of bring Nicole Griffin on off mute, off her screen, and let her kind of lead into the rest of our session, why we're here today. I guess I just want to start by saying thank you, a personal thank you to Nicole. For you guys that don't know who Nicole Griffin is, she is our contract lobbyist for Powers, Griffin and Hill. She has been our contract lobbyist for, I want to say 9 years now, but previous to that, she was actually the executive director of the CRA. So she sat in my role and she tried to do dual jobs and many different things. But what Nicole has done for our association is second to none. She is one of the best lobbyists that you see inside the state building. Obviously working alongside her, she makes my job very easy, so I don't have to be in the building every single day. She does most of that work for us, but obviously she lets me know when I need to be there or when we need to hit the panic button or what things are going on. But I will tell each of you guys, when you talk about where membership dollars go and where the support and everything that we do, advocacy is at the lead. And as much as I want to sit here today and say, look at all the stuff we passed, we're not there yet. But at the same time, understand, when a bill comes out that is in a negative light, that is something that can hurt our industry, how hard it is in certain cases, especially in Connecticut and the legislature that we have, to make sure it doesn't see the light of day or it doesn't pass or it doesn't get through both chambers. That is not easy. And this session was, as Nicole will attest to, was not an easy session by any stretch of the imagination. It was very difficult. It was probably more difficult than I thought it was going to be. But at the end of the day, I thought it was still a success in many, many ways. I'm still really pissed on a couple things that didn't happen, but that'll always be me. And we'll live to fight another day in 2024. There's always a new session, but session is over. So to start there, so you guys know, when we talk about some of these bills and we said they're dead, they are dead for 2023. There is no going back. There's no special session. When you talk about tip credit or all, scheduling or some of these bills that are out there, polystyrene or, whatever it might be. When Nicole says these bills are dead, that's what that means, which is a good thing. We can kind of take a breath for a couple months, I guess, before we start to roll into 2024. But I just wanted to start there, Nicole, and I know she hasn't seen all these slides, but I'm making sure that she knows that I'm so appreciative of her and her team and what they do, and CJ and Kevin and just everybody there inside the building, and what you did in her effort to help us put together CRA Night at the Capitol. We are successful because of the relationship and the team that we have with Nicole. So, Nicole, I'm going to turn it over to you. I'm happy to jump in, but I think you can lead with some of these. I'll start with kind of, I guess, what happened on maybe some positive side, but also some stuff I'm pissed off about. But Nicole, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, Scott. I appreciate those kind words. Good morning, everyone. Scott's introduction was lovely. I think we had a very successful session. I think one of the important things he mentioned was teamwork. We have a fantastic team. The staff at CRA is amazing. Scott comes into the building when he needs to. Yvette, Jennifer, the whole team, they threw a wonderful party 2 weeks ago. Scott's not kidding when he says every legislator and staff person said, can we do it every day? The entire building turned out, leadership, the governor, freshman legislators who have never seen parties like that thrown at the Capitol due to COVID. I think the teamwork extends to a lot of legislators that support this association, regardless of the issue. I just say CRA and they jump to our defense. Specifically, one legislator, I think the Restaurant Association is very lucky you have one of your own that holds a seat in the legislature, and that's Representative Dave Ritigliano, who may or may not be on the Zoom today. I know he was headed to a dentist appointment this morning. He represents the town of Trumbull. He is a Republican in the state house. So why are you lucky? Because he's inside the building in rooms that lobbyists and advocates are not allowed to be in. He sits on the General Law Committee, which is the committee that deals with all things liquor related. And he's in a leadership position in the House Republican caucus. So when the legislators are actually in the chamber debating bills, Scott and I are prohibited from entering the chamber. And so Dave gets to have conversations with legislators that we're not privy to. So it's a team effort all around. And there are some interesting little tidbits and bills that passed this year that I think people will be excited to hear about that would never have happened, but not for Representative Ritigliano. So if Dave's here, a big shout out to you and thanks for everything you do to support the industry and help people out. And I guess I'll kick it off with the Dave Ritigliano bills that passed this year. And go a little bit out of order, Scott, that's okay. I'll start with alcohol to go. You all might remember during COVID, we had temporary alcohol to go to allow restaurants to serve certain amounts of alcohol to go with food, just as a little extra to help restaurants that chose to do so. There was a sunset on that legislation of next year. We went to the legislature last year to ask them to make it permanent. They told us to come back this year. We were lucky enough that the Department of Consumer Protection put it in their legislative package this year to make that permanent. So it became part of their larger bill. Two other items were put into that bill at the request of Representative Ritigliano. One is about cleaning your beer lines. Prior to this legislation, your beer lines had to be cleaned every week. That has now been changed to every 2 weeks. So I think that is something that will be welcomed by the industry. The other thing, which is a complaint that Scott and I have heard for years, is about fire marshal inspections. Your liquor permit renewal has been contingent upon an annual or upon a fire marshal inspection. That is no longer the case. So you will be able to renew your liquor permits without a fire marshal inspection as soon as that bill is signed by the governor. There is still a requirement for an annual fire marshal inspection, but your liquor permit will no longer be contingent upon it. I think that is wonderful news. We get many calls from people saying they can't get their fire marshal out to inspect, and their liquor permit is being held up, or they're a little bit nervous that their liquor permit will be held up. So those are two really positive items I think that passed this session. Scott, feel free to jump in if you want to add to any of these things. Moving on.
I was just going to jump in just quickly and just say, yes, to Dave Ritigliano, Nicole hit the nail on the head, how important it is to have a restaurateur that is actually a legislator, because I can't tell you guys, how frustrating it is to be in the building and try to have conversations with people that have no idea what you guys go through on a daily basis. To see Dave come flying up to the Capitol, sometimes in his chef coats because he's on the line. He's like, I got to go in and deal with a bill, or he's running out to get to the restaurant. Like, having that is critical. We used to have multiple restaurateurs. Unfortunately, we don't as many anymore. But Dave, and what he did, pushing back on the fire marshal inspections and saying, why is this needed? It's tedious. We need to have it when you have a new liquor permit, but not on a renewal. The same way with the beer lines and obviously even alcohol to go. Really, we're really lucky to have him and what he does inside that building, to Nicole's point. So I'm excited for the governor to sign this DCP bill, hopefully over the next couple of days, so we can promote it to the bigger masses of what that means. And even with alcohol to go, I just wanted to chime in before Nicole goes to other stuff. Working with the National Restaurant Association, I think Mike Watley and others are on. We are trying to help you guys. I know some people are like, oh, it was great early in the pandemic, but I don't really do it any much anymore. We are going to try to put on seminars and webinars to help you guys best practices, because there are some restaurants that are doing some phenomenal things, and they are seeing 2-3% of their number are alcohol to go sales, over a week's period or months period. Like, that's huge. And I know how important that is, or even, sometimes I've seen higher, but what does that mean for you? How do you get creative within that space? How do you bring it back in different ways? But we will get out in front of this once we get this thing passed. I think Mike Watley is texting me every day, wanting me to know when this thing gets signed so they can start promoting it as well on their end and helping you guys. So it's a great thing. It is permanent now. It is not something we have to bring back unless someone is trying to take it away. So great work.
I'll jump to food allergen training. There's been a bill before the legislature for several years that would require, there are different iterations of this bill regarding food allergies. There's a few legislators, I think, that have family members with serious food allergies, and they wanted to mandate pretty onerous requirements on restaurants with food allergies. Scott and I worked with these legislators to negotiate what we think is a much more fair proposal. It now will require essentially posters in restaurants. I think that it's pushed out until 2024, 2025. I'd have to check the date. Posters in restaurants where you hang all of the rest of your posters, it's going to require naming the 9 major food allergens. It's similar to legislation in Massachusetts and Rhode Island. And then the law will also require something that's already in the FDA model food code, which is having something on your menus or menu boards, asking customers to let their servers know about any major allergies. So that did pass the House and Senate and is expected to be signed by the governor as well. There's legislation that's around every year also that would ban the use of plastic straws in restaurants unless requested by customers, and legislation that would ban the use of polystyrene, which is essentially styrofoam, by restaurants and schools. Both of those bills did not make it through the legislature this year, so they will not become law. They've been around for years. We expect them both to come back again next year. They are kind of perennial favorites of some of the pro-environment legislators. Let's see, Scott, do you want to take the tourism?
Yeah, and I just want to jump in because I know some folks on here usually say to me, Scott, why are you trying to kill a polystyrene bill or plastic straw? We should be pro-environment. We are. Understand though that, we know that there's a lot of towns that already have these bans. There's also a lot of restaurants. You guys are working towards this. It is about cost. It is about trying to make sure that, they're just targeting our industry. When these 2 bills come out, so you guys know, these are specific targets at restaurants. They are saying which the worst polystyrene that there is, based on environmental protection, is the styrofoam with packed meat in grocery stores. That's never in the bill. It's always a target. And I think for us, we always say, hey, I'm willing to have a conversation. Let's figure out a pathway to maybe get rid of some of this stuff moving forward, which I think the cities have done a really good job, but the state is just looking at a specific target. So understand that I'm always, I'm not anti-environment. It's just making sure that they aren't specifically trying to target an industry and saying, well, we're just going to make sure the restaurants don't do it, but everyone else can do it. And I think that comes out a lot, as Nicole knows, on a lot of different bills, but understanding the environmental world here and where I am, and I know I get both sides of this, obviously trying to find whether it's plastic straws, paper straws, metal straws, what's going on in other states and the challenges that are out there. Even with the plastic straw stuff, they're like, oh, well, we'll make sure that Dunkin' Donuts and their members, and I love them, are fine, but others like not trying to segment our industry as well and how we go about this in the best way. So just to update you guys on those two issues.
Yeah, and let me add, thanks, Scott. That's a good point. And just to add to that, a little bit more specific into those details, that legislation would have required the plastic straw ban to be on full service restaurants, but not on quick serve. And so, we've long maintained that the industry will change and the industry will phase out certain products, that we are certainly not anti-environment. And on the polystyrene ban, it was for restaurants and school districts, and all of the municipalities felt that there would be a major cost, and who was paying for the cost to replace the polystyrene with another material, and that's essentially why that went nowhere. So in no way are we saying we're anti-environment. It's just let the industry deal with these issues on their own, and certainly we don't want to be targeted. There are other industries that use polystyrene, and we don't want to say, okay, it's okay for one restaurant to use plastic straws, but not another. And so that's a valid point. Thanks, Scott.
Yeah, no problem. And then just quickly on state budget that passed, it was actually a bipartisan, correct, Nicole? It was a bipartisan budget, which
overwhelmingly,
in a lot of ways which is great. However, I will share my frustrations on, just so you guys know, on a tourist side and meals and beverage tax. You guys have probably been on some webinars earlier in the year. One of the proposed plans we have a 1% meals and beverage tax in the state of Connecticut. So it's 7.35, as you guys know, not 6.35. It was added in 2019. At the first year, I think it was $57 million to the state. It went to the general fund. It didn't help our industry at all. And this is something going into 2024 that I want to be extremely loud about how we push back on our legislature, on the governor, and many others to say, you need to help support our industry. We are generating significant dollars for you. That 1% this year is projected to do $100 million based on Mark Boughton and DRS and the commissioner and his numbers. None of that, zero of the $100 million is going to go to workforce development, is going to go to tourism, and it's going to go back to municipalities, which is kind of where the plan was on this hospitality fund. That's my frustration, that, the good thing is they didn't take the 1% and put it somewhere else. But at the end of the day, it doesn't make sense to me that we are generating billions of dollars. We're generating millions of dollars in sales and use tax to the state every single year, and we're literally left with nothing. And you talk about our tourist budget. The other thing I'm frustrated about, it was about 11 or 12 million using ARPA funds the last 2 years. It is now down to about 4.5, 5 million. So as much as the governor and others have been touting how incredible tourism is, how incredible Mystic, how incredible all the things that you saw in New Haven, everything else that's there, literally they cut the budget by about $7 million. They said it's ARPA funding, but you could have used some of this. So this is another area with other groups that I'm involved in, because we all know, I know you guys don't directly benefit from tourism. The more people enter our state, the more they go out to eat at restaurants. It's a known fact. We know that, and we saw those numbers kind of increase throughout our state and all that goes on. So, in the tourist budget is a bigger picture piece. It deals with CT meetings and Convention and Visitors Bureau. It's not just going to Mystic, as everyone likes to think, and staying on vacation. It's a gymnastic group that comes to Hartford and stays at the hotel. It's a hockey tournament that I travel to that's in the Southwest in Fairfield County that brings in, 400, 500 people, and they go out and eat. All those things matter, and we need dollars to support that. So this is a bigger piece for me when you talk about proactive legislation that we need to get out in front of. This will be for 2024, but very, very frustrated kind of how we didn't get that done. I know Colin, I think, is on. The other one is, they say they do real bills there, but the pizza bill died. Unfortunately, we're going to take another shot at it in 2024 for all those pizza restaurants that are on. It should be our state food. It should take literally 10 minutes in both House and Senate to get passed. And we can talk about it. If other states can pass oranges as a state fruit in Florida or whatever that it might be, for us to have national attention and promote our industry, that piece of legislation should have gone through. So we will work on it again for 2024. So going kind of to the next, we talked about liquor renewals, but we'll go into the other fun bills that I think everyone is on this morning. So Nicole, it's back to you.
Sure. So these are the issues that, we play defense on every year. We head into a legislative session knowing that the pro-labor groups are going to have an agenda that the business community will be defending themselves against. And there's always something specific to the restaurant industry. So this year we went into session expecting a bill on expansion of paid sick days, expecting a bill on non-compete agreements, expecting again a bill on predictive scheduling. And then, we also faced a bill on the elimination of the tip credit. And so, we had a lot of pro-labor, anti-business legislation this year. I think that it was a roller coaster of a session. There were times that we thought a couple of these bills might pass. There were times we thought we would have to compromise on some of them. And in the end, I'm really excited to share with you that none of these bills passed the House or Senate. None of them will become law. Unfortunately, that means they will be back next year, and we will be fighting a lot of the same battles. So just to go through them all individually, predictive scheduling, many of you are aware, is a bill that has been around for probably 7 or 8 years now. It's a bill that would require businesses to post employee schedules 7 or 14 days ahead of time. If you change the schedule, you'd be required to pay those employees. There are a lot of other details of that bill, but that's the general idea there. I think that bill has, maybe last year, the year before, it had a lot of attention. Those might have been the years for it to pass. We went into this year, I think Scott and I both felt it might have had a lot of momentum in the beginning of the year. And then, as the session moved on, it lost some momentum. And so that didn't move forward. Connecticut paid sick days. This is legislation that passed, I think, in 2012 that impacts the service industry. So essentially restaurants, retail and grocery stores. And this is legislation that if you have 50 or more employees and they are service employees, you need to provide for them up to 5 days of essentially paid time off a year. There are more details to it. But so the restaurant industry has been impacted by this for over a decade. The legislation this year, there were 2 iterations of this bill, one that came out of the Senate and one that was a House bill, that was the governor's bill. And these bills would have expanded this to essentially all employees in the state, and also would have brought the employee count down to 1 or more employees. This bill was, I would say for the last 3 weeks of session, there were various attempts to compromise on this bill. And in the end, the labor advocates really wanted the bill in its original form and didn't want to compromise. I have to say we have very strong support, certainly in the House Republican caucus. And we had a lot of support in what's known as the Blue Dogs, which are the moderate caucus of the House Democrats that really weren't supportive of any version of this. And so that also did not pass. Non-compete agreements, a bill that's been around for years, not something that we've been too concerned about because, the general idea is restaurant employers aren't using non-competes. There was an iteration of this bill that would have impacted essentially quick service restaurants if it were to pass, but no compromise was made there, so that didn't pass. The tip credit elimination got a lot of attention in the beginning of session. Some folks from Washington, D.C. came up, testified on the bill, got some media attention, went to a restaurant, talked about how servers were treated so poorly. They didn't make enough money. I have to say their narrative, made restaurant employers look like they weren't doing the right thing. I think we were able to turn it around, tell the truth at the Capitol, and Scott and Keith Bollier, who's the chairman of the board of the CRA, and we met with a lot of senators. It was a Senate bill, and we activated grassroots and grassroots work. And senators heard from restaurant operators in their districts that this was not the case, that the system works and the system works well. I think there were some servers that knew about this legislation and also talked to legislators and told them that this was not a problem, that they liked the way they got paid, that they made very decent money, and that this is a system that worked well for both the employer and the employee. And so this bill did not move either. This will absolutely be back next year. I think this is a national movement, and there are several states that already use a system where there is no tip credit. So we can expect to be fighting this as the years move on, into the next session. Minimum wage indexing, as everyone knows, the minimum wage increased to $15, last week or the week before on June 1st. Moving forward, Connecticut's minimum wage is now tied to a federal indexing. And so in January of 2024 and every January after, it will likely increase. The amount is unknown. And so due to inflation, we think the first increase in January of 2024 will be high. Right now, we're predicting it's about 70, 72 cents. We don't know exactly what that will be until we get closer. This was part of a compromise deal 3 or 4 years ago with the increase in minimum wage, where we were able to essentially disconnect the tip credit from the minimum wage, so that wouldn't increase proportionally. And so the tip credit wage has stayed where it is at $6.38 for servers since that happened. And so, that we worked to try to pause that January 2024 increase. We weren't successful in that. And so it will go up in January. I think that's everything on the list. Scott, feel free if you'd like to.
No, I mean, obviously there were a lot of questions, less questions right now in the chat, but feel free to ask questions in the chat if you do. Definitely questions leading in, but this was the meat. This is, unfortunately, since I took over this role 5 years ago, unfortunately, we have to play a lot of defense in Connecticut. I was on a call yesterday with, about 25 other CEOs around the country. I always joke that we are the California of the Northeast, and someone tabbed me, says, "Don't sell yourself short. You're the California of the East." I said, "Great, but what do I mean by that?" Well, we see a lot of, very negative labor, legislation attacking our industry in a lot of ways. And, some of the bills that have passed in California have made their way here, and we unfortunately have to keep an eye on that. And we also, so you guys understand the makeup of our legislature. As much as we talk about how great Dave Ritigliano is as a Republican representative, understand in Connecticut, it's a one-party rule. And it's not just one-party rule, it's a one-party majority rule. You have a Democratic governor, you have a 98-53 House, 98 Democrats to 53 Republicans in the House, and then you have a 24-12 Democrat to Republican Senate. This isn't about what party you align with or not, but just understand, typically the Republicans are pro-business and helping us in trying to find ways, there are Democrats and moderate Dems, to Nicole's point she talked about, that have been great and phenomenal to work with. But, at the end of the day, there also is another side of that, the Democratic Party that likes to, that is very far left and are looking, they say to me, $15, $15.70, Scott, it should be 24. It should be 25. It should be a livable wage. Like, I had that same conversation a week ago. Like, those are literally legislators that are voted into our office that say those things and say, hey, we're not worried about competing with Rhode Island or Massachusetts. I want to be like other countries. And I just that's unfortunately what we deal with every day. So understand the tip credit elimination was a huge push by One Fair Wage, which is the name of that group, in CRA, and led by Senator Kushner and Danbury, that tried everything they could to get that over the finish line this year. Talking about slavery as a narrative in our, he's sick to my stomach. I talked about this before, but we were successful not because Nicole or myself or even Keith. We were successful because of every one of you in the work that you guys did throughout session, whether I asked you to send a text message, whether I asked you to send an email, whether I asked you to do an alert, text 52886, all mattered. And when we say we had to make noise in the building, especially on tip credit and scheduling, we did. And, it changed the narrative. We had a lot of legislators that I would never even have considered on our side that came through like, hey, I used to be a server. Like, servers don't need more. Like, the tip credit works. Let's not try to fix it. Let's not try to change it. And it was great. At the end of the day, the goal of that initiative this year was to eliminate it completely. What does that mean? That's happening in DC right now, where it's going to be $15.85 in Washington, D.C. with no tip credit allowed. 76% of restaurants, where I'll be there next week, have changed to, a service charge model, where servers are going to get less. Those are the people that are going to be hurt. Bartenders are going to be hurt by this. The owners have to figure out a way to survive. And that's what's happening. And people go, oh, it's great. We should just do that. I mean, having those conversations as well with an owner. I've talked to Oregon and California and states that have gone that route. It's not as easy as you think. Oh, I'll just take in a 20% service charge and I'll be fine. Like, I've gone through that. I've continued these conversations about the challenges. You lose the FICA tax tip credit. You pay more in payroll taxes. If you have a lease, you could be paying more on your lease because of the revenues you're bringing in. There's so many other challenges that are aligned with this of trying to just change what works in our industry. And we did a survey, another thing that you guys did a phenomenal job of. We had over 205 restaurants in 4 days in Connecticut. It was amazing. Even nationals, like, how the heck did you guys do that? It talked about how our relationship is with our members, that gave us their data for the average server and bartender within their restaurant last year. The average is $33 for servers and $38 for bartenders. Some of the highest numbers we've ever seen. Why is that? Because of inflation, because your menu prices have gone up. They are getting raises at $6.38 because instead of being $60, $70 for my wife and I to go out at a casual restaurant, it's now $90. People are tipping off of 90, not off of 70. So they're getting an increase every time you increase your menu prices by 50 cents, $1. They automatically get 18%, 20% of that. So understand how important that is. That we were able to defeat that piece of legislation this year. I was obviously, stressed at different times. You guys saw the Hartford Current. You saw what happened with media taking this narrative and talking about how they didn't understand it in the way that they should. And I think legislators, at the end of the day, that was really our fight. I told so many people that would call me and say, "Hey, Scott, this is going to move. I saw it in the Current. I saw it on the news last night." And realistically understand this is about our relationship with legislators. Those are the people that pass the bills. We need to get in front of them and explain to them what eliminating the tip credit would really do in our state and the negativity it would cause and how it would hurt those servers and those bartenders. And we are fortunate to tell you today that piece of legislation died. Your tip credit is still $6.38, $8.23. It is not changing. Obviously, the minimum wage went up to $15. I am still frustrated about that indexing piece. We aren't going to stop with trying to figure that out and creative down the road, because I don't want to be at a $20 minimum wage in the next 6 years. I think that we need to have honest conversations with Democrats in the building about where our minimum wage should be. And it shouldn't just be restaurants. It should be other industries as well, having those conversations, and we'll continue those. And then the scheduling one as well. I know you guys know that bill has really carved out a lot of the independent restaurants in the past, but still it would have targeted, those franchisees that even had 1 or 2 locations. You would have been in the bill, as well as obviously all the corporately owned restaurants. And you guys know as well as I do, you kick that door open, like FMLA or other things in the past, they're just going to look to lower the threshold every year. So we were successful in educating them on how scheduling does not work for our industry. We are already scheduling right now, but having a mandated restrictive schedule hurts everyone. It hurts the employer, it hurts the employee. And thank you to all those to help that narrative as well as we move forward. So really, really happy with this session and the success. I can tell you, even hearing from the National Restaurant Association, talking with the national chains and with their team, how impressed that we were able to keep our narrative, not get into the weeds, not get into ugly fights, but really just tell our story and get us to where we are through session. But as you can see, I'm still not happy with all that transpired. I still think we should have gotten more wins. Other things that I'm looking at for next year, just to lead in, because we'll go into some of these questions in a second. I think there needs to be more proactive bills. I'm still worried about the unemployment trust that is going to be dumped on our businesses. I'm still extremely worried about our credit card swipe fees and things like that. If that's not done at the federal level, we're going to try to figure out our way to state level for you to save money. Right now, you pay fees on sales tax you collect. That shouldn't be the case. You shouldn't have to pay a bank, 4%, 4.5% on sales tax. We're going to look at legislation to try to change that. We're going to try to find ways as an industry and as an association to be proactive in helping small businesses survive. And that will be our mission moving forward. But at the same time, we still will have to fight these bills. The labor unions are extremely strong. The Working Families Party are very, very strong and have ties inside that building. And it is really, really important that we continue to tell our narrative and the way that it works and how incredible our industry is and how incredible each one of you guys are with your business, how much you care about your employees. And we need to try to survive. In the same way with workforce development, we're still 20,000 jobs short. All those things that need to matter, that matter to our industry, we're going to be out in front of. But yeah, so just so we're clear, thank you, Nicole, for this. We'll go through these questions in a second that you guys have. I think Nicole's already answering a lot of them, which is great. We could talk about pooled tipping systems and things like that. I will say, I don't want to get into that on the call today, but understand there is a distinct difference between state law and federal law and tip pooling. There is no tip pooling law, state law, a state side. I know if Ryan's on or not, I've had this conversation. It is a federal law, tip pooling, and the rules and regulations and how you follow it. That's why we did legislative wage and compliance seminars earlier in the year to continue to educate you guys on overtime and tip pooling. And the world of our industry changes every day. You guys know this as I touch my screen and I go out to get a coffee and someone flips a screen in front of me and says, do you want to leave a tip? What does that mean? How, those are tips, those are gratuities. That's not a service charge. Those have to stay with the employee, but you can pull those, but who can be in the pool? We are working with Pullman Comley to probably have a webinar soon to discuss this specific issue right away, because I think that we want to make sure you guys understand it, but it is not something from the Connecticut DOL on tip pooling. This is a federal piece of, it's the federal audit. If you had federal DOL, how you deal with your tips, especially when you deal with tips at your takeout and to go, and you deal with your tips at the front of line if you're a quick serve or fast casual, that is different than the tip credit in the tips that your servers and bartenders receive. So our job as an association is to try to work with these departments and give you guys the best piece of information that we can for you guys to make the best business decisions you can. So, using Pullman Comley and Ryan O'Donnell is critical, but anytime you guys have specific questions, that I see on here, we need to make sure, that we continue to educate you guys. And I see Christine's question exactly. The DOL says that I'm even trying to work on that on the side so you guys know and have conversations. The DOL actually Connecticut DOL does not actually have, the rules that the federal rules on tip pooling. They're two solely separate. Even to say they each have rules is different. And we can talk about that. And even with Nicole and I have already had sidebar conversations like, do we need to try to get a piece of legislation to clean it up to protect us? The last thing we want is litigation. The last thing we want is lawyers out in your restaurant coming after you in any different way because you think you're doing it right and you're not. And I think that's the fear I have and where I lose sleep at night for you guys. But, understand that these are great questions. I don't want to get all into the weeds. This is more about the session specifically. But, understand, is it mandatory? I don't believe it is mandatory that you need to ask for a tip. I think you can have a jar or whatever else. I don't think on your screens or things like that, it's a mandate that you need to be saying, you need to leave a tip or not. I know that is not based on knowledge. I'll get exactly the answer, Huda, to make sure that we're right on that. But at the same time, these are great questions, as we go forward. But we will make sure we get you an answer specifically. Don't take that for what it's worth. I know Ryan should be on this call, but that's really what's always hard for me too. And I think for people that are on this call as well, that are like, well, I've been doing it for 25 years. I know this is how I've been doing it, Scott. And I value that. I value that I've been in this role for 5 years and you've been in it for 2 decades or more. But understand, rules change constantly. They change at a state level. They change at a federal level. We're still waiting to hear on, the labor board at a federal level on certain issues. When you have new presidents, when you had the Obama administration versus the Trump administration versus the Biden administration, rules change. And that's also why it's so much value to be a part of the CRA, because we try to get you that information as quick as we can so you can change on the fly and protect yourself moving forward. Because that's at the end of the day, that's our job. Our job is to be that conduit to help you guys any way that we can. Yes, Christine, I couldn't agree more. Bridging the gap is a great way to put it, but also bridging the gap with our relationship with the Connecticut DOL and the CRA. My relationship with them to make sure that they know I don't own a restaurant. My job is just I also can't tell them. I'm not going to tell you what to do, what not to do. That needs to come from the DOL. We need to have that relationship to ask these questions and hopefully get the right answer and protection. So, I did see that question that was up there. Is Connecticut allowing us on the sales tax week to keep it for another year? I wish. That was a part of COVID. That was a part of a proposal that we put out, so you guys know, because I was extremely frustrated with ARPA dollars that they weren't giving grants and they weren't helping the restaurant industry like they should. So what they did was they gave us 1 week to choose. We actually chose 3 separate weeks. That piece of legislation obviously was a COVID piece. We could talk about other ways to help you guys save money. I don't see the state legislature in the future just going to be like, hey, we'll do that again. We're going to save you guys money. We can obviously talk about it, but that was one that they viewed it as a grant-based program to help you guys coming out of COVID. I know we're still kind of coming out of COVID, but at the end of the day, that was not this legislature this year. Really, COVID wasn't a topic at all, or trying to help you guys funding. It was more trying to fight some of the negative legislation. And Nicole sent off the food allergy bill. What that means, it's a poster. We're probably going to take the same poster from Massachusetts and Rhode Island. There are 9 food allergies now with sesame and sesame oil, sesame seeds. So that'll be new that you have to have in your break room. But obviously, so that piece of legislation as it started was much more restrictive. They started with, they wanted every single employee of restaurants to have food allergy training in some side. Like that 130,000 people that, we don't even have serve safe manager on that side. So understand that we worked to try to compromise on that bill to make sure, yes, allergy training is important. We're already doing a lot of it, but at the same time, we do not need 135,000 people to take food allergy training to protect our customers. Nicole, did I miss anything as I'm just kind of going through questions?
I don't think so.
People are already answering questions for us.
I see a question on outdoor seating. If we want to, I know we didn't talk about outdoor dining today, but if we can just get a really quick update on what happened this year.
You want to take a stab at it, Nicole?
Yeah, so this could be a little bit confusing. There was the COVID rule, the governor's executive order under COVID. And so that expired. And then we were able to extend that for a year. And then a new law took over on May 1st of this year. So the new law is more similar to the COVID rules than it was to the law prior to COVID. And that sounds confusing. I understand that. And so what does that mean? It means it's giving municipalities a little bit more control than they had prior to COVID. And so basically, if you were permitted for extended outdoor patio use, then you are okay to continue doing that. And if you aren't, then you do have to go back and apply for a new permit, including an alcohol permit. I think that's kind of the clearest way I could say things. I do think that municipalities, unless they are unless there is a large restaurant presence in the town, like a West Hartford that was very forward thinking and is, pretty much all set. They know what they're doing. And if you're in a smaller town that might not be as aware, I think there's a little bit of confusion on the restaurant side and the municipality side. And I would say, reach out to Scott or Yvette or me, and we can try to work with the local authorities to help make sure everyone understands what the law is. Because it's confusing. And so if you have a specific question, ask us. But otherwise, if you had a permit for outdoor dining, you're good to go. And you shouldn't be given, you shouldn't get any pushback from your town. And if you do, let us know. I think that's the best way to kind of explain where things stand right now.
Just seeing other questions. Fire marshal and beer line rules. Right now, that bill has to be signed by the governor. I believe, Nick, I don't know, that DCP bill is pretty long.
I'll have to go check the effective dates for those sections. And I can do that right now while we're talking and just right back to Nicole's question.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm just kind of going through. So yeah, the outdoor dining side, like Nicole said, if you're having a challenge, especially there is still a lot of gray areas. We go through this, we're going to learn for the future. Especially if you're a new restaurant, let's just say you opened 6 months ago. A lot of the legislation in the governor's bill was hey, allowing you to do what you did before. Well, you didn't do anything before. So my big thing is about equality and balance and making sure, hey, if you've allowed that restaurant to have the patio and that space or that sidewalk, then if a new restaurant comes in, they should have the same qualifications. So if you're having challenges with your city or your town, let us know about what you're trying to do. We'll try to help any way that we can. Obviously, it's not just at a state level. This is much more at the municipality level. And they've been very good to work with. We have some phenomenal mayors and first selectmen and teams that have helped us, but they're not all perfect. I think there's 169 different towns and municipalities. Does make it a little bit more difficult. But at the same time, I just want you guys to know that that is something that we are here for to kind of help. What are the questions I see?
Scott, while you're looking at the questions, I just want to mention two things. I know there was a lot of questions about tips. Please reach out to us when you have tip questions, because tip laws are extremely complex. And like Scott says, laws change, things change. Don't try to figure it out on your own. Don't ask, the restaurateur down the street. Reach out to us. We will get your question answered or refer you off to someone who can get your question answered. If you are a member, don't forget, you get 4 consultations a year with our labor attorney, Ryan O'Donnell, who has helped to write a lot of this legislation. So there's nobody better to reach out to as a resource. So please use that membership benefit and reach out to Ryan. A tip question is the perfect reason to reach out to him. With that, I also want to mention that a lot of times we get questions, and I feel for you, because I don't want you, especially as members, to feel like you are on an island or you're in a silo and you're trying to figure these things out. Our advocacy work is obviously the most critical piece that what we do, but we serve as a resource to our members. So don't ever feel like you're in a silo. We are that restaurant community. We connect everyone. Don't try to figure it out. Reach out to us. The quickest way to get an answer, just shoot out a message to info@ctrestaurant.org, and someone on our staff will respond to you and or will connect you with somebody that can answer your question. So please, by all means, you're not in a silo. You're running your business. We're in the background helping to support you. Use that as your resource. Reach out to us and we'll get your questions answered.
And obviously one of the questions was, do we have phone numbers and emails? So this is a quick shot of our staff and our specific emails, as well as Nicole, Brian Duran, who I didn't mention as well, our PR firm. It's a phenomenal job helping me with the media and legislative media and the building. And obviously Ryan O'Donnell is now with Pullman Comley. That is his new email. If you have questions for him. But to Yvette's point, like, there is not a question that we haven't gotten before. There might, you might be like, Scott, I can't, I'm struggling with an issue with my liquor permit. I'm struggling with an issue with DOL. I have a question about DRS. Like, that's our job. Like, help us try to find that answer for you. It could be as minute as, hey, do you have someone, I need someone new to do my hood cleaning. To, hey, I'm dealing with CHRO and I have a claim. What do I do? I mean, my biggest first question would be reach out to Ryan. And to Yvette's point, all of our members receive 4 free consultations a year, besides the advocacy that we just talked about. I don't know where else you can call a lawyer and get four 15-minute consultations on anything that could be that you're just making sure and checking the box that he's giving you clarity on, or trying to find the answer. And Pullman Comley's team is a whole hospitality team now, that it can help you with leases, can help you with mergers, can help you with, immigration, ICE, all kinds of things on ICE, like all kinds of things that are out there that his team has now at his discretion to help you. So, but, I also just kind of want to go, if there aren't really any other questions, we'll kind of, before we take it off mute, I do want to make sure you guys have this screen for emails and such. But
So Scott, just quickly to answer the question about the beer lines and the fire inspections, those are October 1st effective dates.
October 1. Okay. So yeah, someone already texted me and said, I just had to have the fire marshal come this week. And I'm like, I'm sorry, we couldn't get it done that fast.
I know. Bills are usually effective upon passage or July 1st or October 1st. That's how it works. And so for whatever reason, these were made October 1st effective dates.
I just want to put this screen back up because I'd love to see a lot of you guys. Unfortunately, I know how hard you work throughout the year. There's realistically, there's 2 main events that we'd love to see you at. Obviously, now we have 3 with that event with the CRA Night at the Capitol, but hope to see you at our golf tournament. Hope to see you at the Crazies. These are opportunities where you get outside the 4 walls of your restaurant, hopefully get a chance to spend some time with us, network with your peers. Obviously this chef dinner, I'm extremely excited for what they're putting together for everybody. And you can just come for the dinner from 5 to like 7:30, 8 o'clock. You don't have to be a golfer to come and enjoy an incredible dinner. And you're going to have 255, 260 golfers coming off the course as well. And then obviously the crazies, really excited for what that's going to be. But, hope that, and if you want to support us through a T-sign, you can buy it for one of the courses, or for $400, your sign, you'll get two signs for both courses. You'll get a sign for each one. But yeah, no, listen, I appreciate all that you guys, do to help us. We wouldn't be what we are without our members. We are a member-based organization. When we talk about it a lot, and we are able to grow and be that voice for you, but realistically, you are that voice. I can just continue to lead into different stories and conversations and meetings and things that have transpired over the last year to 5 years, with restaurateurs that say, hey, I'm just a sole proprietor. What does it matter if I'm a member? What does it matter if I reach out to my legislator? You guys have no idea how incredible those voices have been to help us fighting off bad legislation, helping promote good legislation, helping our mission as an industry to grow hospitality. So I'll stop there. Yvette, if you want to hit unmute.
Well, can I just answer a couple
Go
quick
ahead.
ones here, Scott? So Denise, it's not on you to do it. It's on them. However they do it, but nothing is contingent upon a inspection anymore. So they'll come out when they come out. Patty, to your question about the poster, the effective date for that is pushed out a little bit. And so I think what will happen is there'll be, approved posters by Department of Public Health, just like they have in Massachusetts and Rhode Island, and they'll be downloadable for restaurants to use. I want to say that's January or July of next year. I'd have to go back and check. And so you'll be able to just go ahead on their website, and I'm sure the CRA will have them available for you to download the posters.
All right,
And to
Yvette, you
all
can
of those
flip.
people who asked for the paid sick days language, I will email it to you, and then Yvette will have it. And I'm sure the CRA could post it on their website, so everyone has that if they want to take a look at it.
Also, real quickly, sorry, Scott, I know we're wrapping up here, but just because there were so many questions and we were just talking about posters, I'll put in the chat there, the mandatory order number 8 poster, please make sure you've got that posted, but that has a lot of details on tip law. So take a look at that one. It's also always linked from our website. And I'm not seeing anything else in the chat. Scott, I think we got most of the questions that came in advance. We got those answered. Anybody else has questions, just shoot us a message at info@ctrestaurant.org. I think we'll stay on a little bit if there's anything else. Scott, are you okay to pause I'll stop the recording? Okay.
You can stop the recording.
Thank you.
Thank you guys again for the time today. We